The city was always loud, full of people moving fast, cars passing, lights flashing, and voices mixing together. But in the middle of all that noise, a small figure walked slowly, almost invisible to everyone around her. She was a little girl, no older than 8, her clothes dusty and worn, her small hands holding a piece of paper tightly as if it was the most important thing in the universe. Her eyes were different, slightly glowing, but most people were too busy to notice. She stopped in front of a man wearing a suit, gently pulling his sleeve, her voice soft but hopeful. "Are you my dad?" The man looked down, confused for a second, then shook his head and pulled his arm away. "No, go ask someone else," he said before walking off quickly. The girl nodded slowly, not angry, not surprised, just used to it. She moved again, step by step, stopping another man. This one older, with tired eyes. She lifted her paper toward him. "Are you my dad?" He looked at the paper, then at her face. His expression softened for a moment, but then he sighed. "No, child, I'm not," and he walked away too. The paper she held had simple words written in uneven handwriting. "Have you seen my dad?" And below it, a rough drawing of a man's face. She had shown that same paper to hundreds, maybe thousands of people. Some laughed, some ignored her, some felt sorry, but no one said yes. Still, she kept asking. The sun began to lower, casting long shadows across the streets, the air growing colder. But the girl did not stop, her small legs tired, her voice weaker, but her hope still alive. "Are you my dad?" she asked again. This time to a group of young men. They looked at each other and laughed, one of them mocking her voice. "Are you my dad?" Before they walked away, still laughing, the girl stood there quietly, her grip on the paper tightening. But she did not cry. She never cried anymore. Far across the street, a man stood still, watching her. He was not laughing. He had seen her ask again and again, had seen the way people ignored her, and something about it felt wrong. Something about her felt different. She didn't move like a normal child, didn't react like one either. There was something hidden behind her quiet eyes. The man frowned slightly, crossing his arms, trying to understand why he couldn't just walk away like everyone else. Meanwhile, the girl continued her search, moving to another stranger, her steps slower now. "Are you my dad?" she asked again, her voice barely above a whisper. The stranger didn't even stop this time. Her shoulders dropped slightly, just for a moment. But then she straightened again, as if she refused to give up. A sudden flash crossed her mind. Fire in the sky, loud explosions, metal ships breaking apart, people running, shouting, a strong pair of arms lifting her, a deep voice saying something she could not fully remember. "Find me." The memory faded as quickly as it came. She blinked, looking around the busy street again, her small heart beating faster. She looked at the paper in her hand, then at the faces around her. He had told her to find him, so she would, no matter how long it took. Her steps became uneven as she walked again, her body finally reaching its limit. She stopped in the middle of the sidewalk, swaying slightly. People moved around her, annoyed, unaware, her vision blurred, but still. She tried one more time. She looked at a passing man, her voice breaking. "Are you my dad?" The man didn't hear her. Her hand slowly dropped. The paper slipped slightly from her fingers, and then she collapsed, her small body hitting the ground softly, unnoticed for a few seconds in the busy crowd. Across the street, the man who had been watching her suddenly moved. His eyes widened, something inside him reacting instantly. He stepped forward, quickly, pushing through people, his focus locked on the fallen girl. For the first time, his calm expression broke. Something felt very wrong, very familiar. He reached her, kneeling down beside her small, fragile body, picking up the paper she had been holding. He looked at the drawing, then at her face. His breath caught for a moment. "Who are you?" he whispered. The girl stirred slightly, her lips moving weakly. "Dad." The word hit him harder than he expected. His hand froze for a second. He almost reached out to hold her. but then he stopped. His mind filled with questions, doubts, and something deeper. Something buried long ago. The crowd continued moving around them, unaware that something important was happening. The man looked down at the girl again, then at the paper, then back at her, and this time, he didn't look away, but he still hadn't answered her question, and somewhere deep inside him, he was afraid of what that answer might be. The man stayed frozen for a moment, the girl's weak voice echoing in his mind, the single word "Dad" refusing to leave his thoughts. The noise of the city fading around him as if everything else had suddenly become unimportant. He looked down at her again, her small body barely moving, her breathing light and uneven, her fingers still curled as if trying to hold on to something that was no longer there. Without thinking further, he gently lifted her into his arms, surprised by how light she felt, almost too light, like she had not eaten properly for days. "Hey, stay with me," he muttered, his voice low and uncertain. As he quickly moved out of the crowd, people glanced at him but didn't stop. No one asked questions. No one cared enough to get involved. He carried her to a quieter street nearby and placed her carefully on a bench, kneeling in front of her, studying her face more closely now. That was when he noticed it clearly. Her eyes, they were not normal. Even though they were closed, a faint soft glow came from beneath her eyelids, barely visible but real enough to make his heartbeat quicken. "This isn't possible," he whispered. The girl slowly opened her eyes, the glow fading slightly as she looked at him, confused but calm, as if waking up in a stranger's arms was nothing unusual to her. For a few seconds, they just stared at each other. Then, like before, she reached for the paper in his hand. "Please, give," she said softly. He hesitated but handed it back to her. She held it close to her chest, as if it was the only thing she truly owned. Then she looked up at him again, her voice gentle but direct. "Are you my dad?" The question hit him again, but this time, he didn't look away immediately. Instead, he asked, "Why do you keep asking that?" She tilted her head slightly, as if the answer was simple. "Because I have to find him." "Why?" he pressed, her eyes lowered to the paper, her small fingers tracing the drawing. "He told me to find him." The man felt a strange tension in his chest. Something about her words felt too serious, too real for a child her age. "Who told you?" he asked. She was quiet for a moment, as if trying to remember something far away. Then she spoke slowly. "A human." That made him pause. "A human," he repeated, his voice more serious now. "You're saying your father is human?" She shook her head. "No, not father," she corrected softly. "But he said, find him. So he is my dad." The logic was simple, childish, but something about it felt deeper than it sounded. The man leaned back slightly, studying her again. "You're not from here, are you?" he asked carefully. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she looked around the street, the buildings, the people passing by, her expression distant, like none of it truly belonged to her. "No," she finally said. The word was quiet, but certain. A cold feeling ran through him. He had seen strange things before, things he never talked about, things he had buried deep in his past, and now, standing in front of him, was something that felt connected to all of it. "How long have you been looking?" he asked. She looked down at her hands, counting silently with her fingers, then stopped. "I don't know," she admitted. "Days, weeks, years?" he asked. She looked up again. "Long," she said simply. That answer bothered him more than anything else. No child should be alone for that long. No child should survive like this. "Where are your parents?" he asked. She didn't respond. Her silence was enough of an answer. The man ran a hand through his hair, frustrated, confused, unsure what to do next. "You can't just walk around asking strangers if they are your dad," he said, trying to sound firm. "That's dangerous." She looked at him again, her expression calm, almost too calm. "I am not scared," she said. "That's the problem," he replied quickly. She blinked, not fully understanding. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she slowly held up the paper again, showing him the drawing. "You see him before?" she asked. He looked at the rough sketch. The uneven lines, the simple face, something about it felt familiar, but he couldn't place it. "I don't know," he said honestly. She nodded, as if she expected that answer. Most people said the same thing. The wind picked up slightly, making the paper shake in her small hands. The man watched her carefully, noticing every detail now. The way she moved, the way she spoke, the way she didn't react like a normal child. "You shouldn't be alone," he said finally. She didn't argue. Instead, she asked again, "Will you help me find him?" The question caught him off guard. He opened his mouth to refuse, to tell her it wasn't his problem, that he had his own life, his own responsibilities. But the words didn't come out. Instead, he looked into her eyes again. That faint glow returned for just a second, and in that moment, something clicked inside him. A memory tried to surface. Something loud, something painful, something he had tried very hard to forget. He quickly looked away. "This is not good," he muttered under his breath. The girl waited quietly, not pushing, not begging, just waiting, as if she believed he would say yes. The man exhaled slowly, closing his eyes for a brief moment. Then he looked at her again. "Just for now," he said, his voice serious. "I'll help you. Just until we figure something out." Her face didn't change much, but her eyes softened slightly. "Thank you," she said. It was simple, but real. The man stood up, offering his hand to her. She took it without hesitation. And as they began to walk together, he couldn't shake the feeling growing inside him, that this was not a coincidence, that meeting her was not random, and that whatever truth she was searching for was going to change his life in ways he was not ready for. The night slowly covered the city, lights turning on one by one, cars moving like glowing lines in the dark. But the little girl and the man walked quietly through it all, side by side, both lost in their own thoughts. The man kept looking at her from time to time, still unsure what he had just agreed to, helping a strange child who might not even be human. Yet something inside him refused to walk away. "Are you hungry?" he asked after a while. She looked at him, thinking for a moment, as if the question itself was unfamiliar. "I don't know," she said softly. That answer made him pause. "You don't know if you're hungry," he repeated. She shook her head slightly. "I feel weak sometimes," she explained. "But I keep walking." The man frowned, clearly not satisfied with that answer, and led her to a small food stall on the side of the road. He bought something simple and handed it to her. "Eat," he said. She looked at the food carefully before taking a small bite, slow and unsure, like she was learning how to do it again. The man watched closely. "You really are not from here," he muttered. After a few bites, she stopped and looked at him again. "You ask many questions," she said. "And you answer very little," he replied. For a moment, there was silence between them. Then he leaned slightly forward. "Tell me about him," he said. "The human you are looking for." The girl held the paper in her hands again, staring at the rough drawing. Her expression changed slightly, more focused now, like she was reaching into a memory she didn't visit often. "He was strong," she said slowly. The man listened carefully. "He was not afraid," she continued. "Even when everything was breaking." The man's eyes narrowed slightly. "Breaking," he repeated. She nodded. "The sky was on fire," she said, her voice becoming distant. "Big ships falling, loud sounds, people running." The man felt his chest tighten. Those were not normal memories. "Where was this?" he asked quietly. She didn't answer directly. Instead, her grip on the paper tightened. "I was small," she said. "I was hiding." Her breathing became slightly uneven, but she continued. "They came from the sky. They destroyed everything." The man stayed silent, letting her speak. "No one could stop them," she said. "My people were losing." "My people," the man repeated in his mind. That confirmed it. She was not human. Then her voice softened. "But he came." The man looked at her again. "The human," she said. "What did he do?" the man asked. Her eyes lifted, and for a brief moment, that soft glow returned stronger than before. He fought, she said. He stood in front of me. The man felt something shift inside him. He told me not to be scared, she continued, even when he was hurt. The man's hand slowly tightened into a fist. He carried me, she said, her voice almost a whisper now, through fire, through smoke. He did not stop. The images were becoming clearer, sharper. He took me to a ship, she said. A human ship. The man's breathing slowed, his focus completely locked on her words. And then, she paused. Her expression became uncertain, like the memory was broken. He put something in my hand, she said. The man leaned closer. What was it? He asked. She looked at her empty hand. I don't have it now, she said. I lost it long ago. That seemed to bother her more than anything else. But I remember what he said, she added. The man felt a strange fear growing inside him. What did he say? He asked quietly. She looked straight at him. Find me, she said. The words hit harder than they should have. For a moment, the man forgot how to breathe. He smiled, she continued, even when everything was burning. The man quickly looked away, his mind racing. No, that's not possible, he muttered under his breath. The girl tilted her head. You remember something, she said. It wasn't a question, it was a statement. The man stood up suddenly, pacing a few steps away, running his hand through his hair again. No, I don't, he said quickly, but his voice didn't sound convincing. The girl watched him quietly. You are like him, she said. He stopped walking. What? He asked. You feel the same, she explained simply. Strong, but hiding. That made him turn back toward her, his expression more serious now. You don't know what you're talking about, he said. But deep inside, he knew she was getting too close to something he had buried for years, something he never wanted to remember again. The girl didn't argue instead. She looked down at the paper again. I could not see his face clearly, she said. There was too much light, too much fire. The man slowly stepped closer again. But I remember his voice, she added. His heartbeat increased. And his eyes, she said softly. For a moment, they just looked at each other. The air between them felt heavy, you think. That man is your father, he said carefully. She shook her head. I don't know what father is, she replied. But he told me to find him. So I will. Her answer was simple, but filled with determination. The man looked at her, really looked this time, at her tired face, at her quiet strength, at the impossible story she carried like it was nothing. And suddenly, a thought crossed his mind, a dangerous thought. What if? He whispered to himself. The girl blinked. What if what? She asked. He didn't answer, because he wasn't ready to say it out loud. Because if it was true, then everything he believed about his past, about that mission, about that day was wrong. He looked at her one last time, his expression unreadable. And for the first time since meeting her, he was no longer just curious, he was afraid. Afraid that the child standing in front of him was not just looking for someone, but had already found him. The night grew deeper, the city quieter now. But the silence between the man and the girl felt louder than anything around them. They walked side by side again, but something had changed. The man was no longer just helping. He was thinking. Every word she had said was replaying in his mind again and again. Like a memory trying to break free, he glanced at her. Her small steps steady but slow, her hand still holding the paper tightly, as if letting go would mean losing everything. Do you remember anything else? He asked after a while. She looked up at him. About him, he added. She stayed quiet for a few seconds, then shook her head. Only small things, she said. Not clear. That's fine, he replied, though it clearly wasn't enough for him. They reached a quieter area, away from the noise, where streetlights flickered and shadows stretched long across the ground. The man stopped walking. Wait here, he said. She didn't question him, just nodded and stood still. He stepped aside, pulling out a small device from his pocket. His Face serious now for a moment, he hesitated. Then he activated it. A faint blue light appeared, reflecting on his face, old data, old files, things he had not opened in years. His fingers moved quickly, searching, scrolling, his eyes focused. Come on. Where is it? He muttered. Behind him, the girl watched quietly, her head tilted slightly, as if she could sense the change in him. After a few seconds, the man froze. He found something. His breathing slowed. No. He whispered. He looked back at the girl, then at the device again. This doesn't make sense, he said under his breath. He walked back toward her slowly. Tell me, he said, kneeling slightly so he was at her level. The place where everything happened. What did it look like? She thought for a moment. The ground was not like here, she said. It was blue. The man's expression tightened. And the sky? He asked. 2 lights, she replied. Not one. That was enough. The man stood up again quickly, turning away from her. That's not possible, he said again, louder this time. The girl blinked. You say that many times, she said softly. He didn't respond immediately. Instead, he ran both hands through his hair, clearly struggling with something. I was there, he finally said, almost to himself. The girl's eyes focused on him. You remember, she said. He turned back toward her, his face serious, almost tense. I was part of a mission, he explained slowly. A long time ago. The girl listened quietly. We were sent to a distant world, he continued. A rescue operation. Her eyes widened slightly. There were attacks, he said. We were outnumbered, outmatched. Her breathing became a little faster. We tried to evacuate survivors, he added. The connection between their stories was becoming clear, too clear. I carried someone, he said, his voice dropping. The girl didn't move. Child, he continued. The air between them felt heavy again. I thought. He stopped. He couldn't finish the sentence. You thought she died, the girl said softly. His eyes snapped toward her. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Then he looked away again. Yes, he admitted quietly. The girl stepped closer to him, her small footsteps soft but certain. You told her to find you, she said. The man closed his eyes briefly. I don't remember saying that, he replied. But I remember. He paused, holding her. The girl raised her hand slightly, as if trying to reach him, but stopped halfway. Why you leave? She asked. The question was simple, but it carried weight. The man opened his eyes again, his expression filled with something deeper now. I didn't have a choice, he said. The ship was leaving. Everything was collapsing. His voice became heavier. I put her on board and stayed behind to cover the exit. The girl listened carefully. I thought the ship was destroyed, he added. Silence followed, a long, heavy silence. Then the girl spoke again. I was on that ship, she said. The man looked at her slowly. No, he said, almost instantly. That ship didn't make it. She shook her head. I woke up later, she said. Somewhere far. His expression changed again. Different place. Different people, she continued. But no him. The man's mind struggled to keep up. That's not what the report said, he muttered. Reports can be wrong, she replied simply. That made him pause, because deep down, he knew that was true, very true. He looked at her again, more carefully this time, as if trying to see something he had missed before. Do you remember his face? He asked quietly. She shook her head slowly. No. Only feeling, she said. What feeling? He asked. She placed her hand lightly on her chest. Safe, she said. The word hit him harder than anything else. For a moment, his expression softened, then quickly hardened again. This doesn't prove anything, he said, almost defensively. The girl didn't argue. Instead, she reached into her pocket slowly. The man watched closely. She pulled out something small. A broken piece of metal, old, burned, but still holding a faint mark. The man's eyes widened as he saw it. He stepped closer quickly. Where did you get that? He asked. She held it out to him. He gave it to me, she said. The man took it carefully. His hand shaking slightly, he turned it over. And there it was, a symbol, a mark he knew very well, his unit's mark. His breath caught. This. He whispered, his mind raced, his heart pounded. This was real, too real. He looked at the girl again, then at the metal, then back at her, and for the first time, he could no longer deny it. The connection between them was not just a coincidence, it was something much bigger, something he had tried to forget, something that had finally found its way back to him, and this time, it was not going to let him walk away. The cold night air felt heavier now, as if the world itself was holding its breath. Waiting for something to be said, the man stood still, the small piece of burned metal resting in his hand. His fingers tight around it, his eyes locked on the mark he knew too well. It was real. There was no mistake, that symbol belonged to his unit. A unit that no longer existed. A mission that was buried and forgotten. A past he had tried to leave behind, and now it was standing right in front of him. He slowly lifted his eyes and looked at the girl again. She stood quietly, watching him, not scared, not confused, just waiting, always waiting. "Where did you say you got this?" he asked again, his voice lower now. She pointed at the metal. "He gave it," she said simply. The man swallowed slowly. "When?" he asked. She thought for a moment. "Before the light," she said. "Before everything break." His grip tightened. The memory was starting to come back, piece by piece, whether he wanted it or not. The fire, the explosions, the screaming, the weight of a small body in his arms. He turned away from her again, taking a few steps back, his breathing uneven now. "This is not possible," he said. Again, but this time it sounded weaker. Behind him, the girl spoke softly. "You remember now." It was not a question. He closed his eyes tightly, trying to stop the images, but they kept coming. A small child, scared but silent, her hands holding onto his uniform, her eyes looking up at him, trusting him. The man opened his eyes again quickly, shaking his head. "No. I don't remember clearly," he said. But that was no longer true. He remembered enough. He just didn't want to accept it. The girl stepped closer to him slowly. "You carry me," she said. The words were gentle, but they hit like a weight. He turned toward her sharply. "Stop," he said. She froze. The man's face showed something new now, fear, not of her, but of the truth. "You don't understand," he continued, his voice tense. "That day, everyone died." The girl shook her head slowly. "I didn't," she said. The simple answer made everything feel even more real. The man looked at her again, searching her face, trying to find proof, trying to find doubt. But there was none, only calm certainty. "You said you don't remember his face," he said. She nodded. "Yes." "Then how do you know it was me?" he asked. "I don't," she replied. The honesty of her answer stopped him. "I only know. He told me to find him," she added. "And I feel close to you." The man looked away again, frustrated. "Feeling is not proof," he said. She didn't argue. Instead, she held up the paper again, showing him the drawing. "This is how I remember," she said. The man looked at the rough sketch again, this time more carefully. The lines were simple, unclear, but something about it, something small, felt familiar, a detail, a shape, something he couldn't fully explain. He stepped closer without realizing it. "Who drew this?" he asked. "I did," she said. From memory, he studied it again, his mind trying to connect the pieces. Then, suddenly, something clicked. A small detail near the shoulder, a mark, a line that looked like part of a uniform. His breath caught again. "This," he whispered. The girl watched him carefully. "You see it now," she said softly. Man didn't respond immediately, because now he was starting to believe it, not fully, but enough to shake everything inside him. He slowly lowered himself onto the nearby bench, his body feeling heavier than before. "This can't be happening," he said quietly. The girl walked closer and stood in front of him. "You are tired," she said. He let out a small Dry laugh. You have no idea, he replied. For a moment, there was silence again. Then the girl spoke. Can I sit? She asked. He nodded slightly. She sat beside him, her small hands resting in her lap, the paper still held carefully. You help me, she said after a moment. Yes, he replied. Why? She asked. The question caught him off guard. He thought for a moment. I don't know, he admitted. She looked at him. I think you know, she said. He glanced at her. Maybe, he said quietly. Another silence passed. Then the girl turned slightly toward him. Are you my dad? She asked again. The question felt different this time. He didn't answer immediately, his mind filled with everything he had just remembered, everything he was trying to deny. He started, but the words didn't come out. He couldn't say yes, he couldn't say no, because the truth was somewhere in between. He looked at her again, at her tired face, at her hopeful eyes, at the child who had been searching for years without giving up, and something inside him broke a little. But instead of answering her question, he said something else. You can call me whatever you want, he said quietly. The girl blinked, not fully understanding. Uncle, she said after a moment. The word hit him harder than he expected, but he nodded. Okay, he replied. She smiled slightly, a small soft smile, the first real one he had seen from her, and yet it made his chest feel heavy, because deep inside he knew that uncle was not the truth. But he was not ready to face the real answer, not yet. As they sat there in the quiet night, the distance between them felt smaller than before, but the truth between them was closer than ever, waiting, just one step away. The night slowly turned colder, and the quiet street felt almost empty now. But the silence between the man and the girl was no longer calm. It carried weight, something unspoken, something growing stronger with every passing moment. They sat on the bench for a long time, neither of them moving much. The man staring ahead while the girl leaned slightly against him. Her small body clearly tired, he noticed it. The way her breathing had become slower. The way her energy was fading. You should rest, he said quietly. She didn't respond immediately. Instead, she looked up at the sky, her glowing eyes reflecting the distant lights. I am tired, she admitted softly. The words were simple, but they felt heavier than anything she had said before. The man turned toward her, concern clear on his face now. How long have you been like this? He asked. She thought for a moment. Long, she said again. That same answer, that same unknown time. The man clenched his jaw slightly. This was not normal. This was not just a lost child. Something was wrong, something deeper. You can't keep walking like this, he said, his voice more serious now. Your body won't handle it. She looked at him calmly. I have to find him, she replied. That's all I have. The honesty in her voice made it harder for him to argue, but he couldn't ignore what he was seeing. Her strength was fading, slowly but clearly. You won't find anyone if you collapse again, he said firmly. She lowered her eyes slightly. I know, she said. For a moment, her calm expression broke just a little, not into tears, but into something more painful. Doubt. What if I don't find him? She asked quietly. The question caught him off guard. She had never said that before. She had always been certain, always moving forward, but now she was unsure. The man didn't answer immediately because he didn't have a good answer. Instead, he looked at her carefully. You will, he said finally. She looked at him again. You don't know that. She replied. No, he admitted. But you didn't give up all this time, right? She shook her head. No. Then don't stop now, he said. She was quiet again. But something had changed. The hope in her eyes was still there, but it was weaker, like a light slowly fading. Her body shifted slightly, and she leaned more heavily against him this time. The man noticed immediately. Hey, he said softly. Stay awake. I am, she replied, but her voice was weaker now. Her hand moved slowly, gripping his sleeve lightly. Uncle, she said. He looked down at her. Yes. I don't want to be alone, she said. The words hit deeper than anything else. For the first time, her voice carried fear, real fear, not of danger, but of being alone. The man's expression softened, and without thinking, he gently placed his hand over hers. "You're not alone," he said quietly. She closed her eyes for a second, as if that was enough to calm her, but when she opened them again, they looked even more tired. "My body feels strange," she said. "What do you mean?" he asked quickly. She tried to explain, searching for the right words, like, "I am losing something," she said. The man's heart tightened. "That's not good," he said. He stood up quickly, supporting her as she struggled to stand. "We need to get you somewhere safe," he added. She didn't resist, but her steps were weaker now, her balance unstable. After just a few steps, she stumbled. The man caught her immediately. "Easy," he said, his voice filled with urgency now. "I can't walk far," she admitted. That was it. That was the moment. The man made a decision. He knelt slightly and lifted her into his arms again, this time without hesitation. She didn't protest. Instead, she rested her head against his chest, her small hand still holding onto his clothes. For a moment, everything felt still. Then she spoke again, her voice barely above a whisper. "Uncle?" "Yes," he replied, "if I don't find him." She paused, his grip tightened slightly. "Don't say that," he interrupted, but she continued softly. "Tell him." "I tried." The words broke something inside him completely. His steps stopped for a second. His chest felt heavy, his mind filled with everything he had been avoiding, everything he had been denying. He looked down at her, at the child who had crossed worlds, faced loneliness, survived against everything, just to find one person, him. And now, she was losing hope because of him. "No," he said suddenly, his voice stronger now. The girl blinked weakly. "You don't have to tell him anything," he continued, "because he's right here." The words came out before he could stop them. The silence that followed was heavy. The girl looked at him, her tired eyes trying to understand. "What do you mean?" she asked softly. The man took a deep breath, his heart racing, his past crashing into his present. "I'm the one you're looking for," he said. Her eyes widened slightly, but she didn't speak. "Not yet." The man's voice softened. "I was there," he continued. "I carried you. I put you on that ship." Her breathing slowed as she listened. "I thought I lost you," he added. There was pain in every word. The girl stared at him, her expression unclear. "You are him," she said slowly. "I think so," he replied. Quietly, the world around them felt distant, like nothing else mattered anymore. Just this moment, just the truth. The girl's eyes searched his face, trying to match the memory she barely had, trying to feel what she had been chasing for so long. Then, very softly she spoke. "Dad." The word was weak, but real. The man closed his eyes for a second, and for the first time in years, he didn't run from the past. He accepted it. He held her a little closer. "You found me," he whispered. But even in that moment, he could feel it. Her body was still weak, her strength still fading, and he knew this was not the end of their story. This was only the beginning of something much bigger and much more fragile. The words stayed in the air between them, soft but powerful, as if the entire world had stopped just to listen. "Dad." The man felt it deep in his chest, stronger than any memory, stronger than any fear he had carried for years. He looked down at her again, her small face pale, her eyes half open, her strength still fading even after everything they had just discovered. But this time, she was not searching anymore. She had found him, and that changed everything. "We're not done yet," he said quickly, his voice filled with urgency now. "You're not going anywhere. Do you hear me?" She gave a small nod, but it was weak. "I am very tired," she whispered. "I know," he replied, holding her tighter. "Just stay with me." He started moving again, faster now, his steps no longer uncertain, his mind focused on only one thing, saving her. The city. Lights passed around them. But he didn't slow down, didn't stop, pushing forward like he had done once before, in fire and chaos. But this time, he would not fail. "Talk to me," he said, trying to keep her awake. She blinked slowly. "What should I say?" she asked. "Anything," he replied. "Tell me something you remember." She stayed quiet for a moment, then spoke softly. "I remember your voice." He looked down at her. "What about it?" he asked. "It was strong," she said, "but kind." His chest tightened. "You told me not to be scared." He swallowed slowly. "I was trying to be brave," he said quietly. "You were," she replied. Her voice was fading again. "And you are still," she added. The man shook his head slightly. "Not always," he admitted. They moved into a quieter street, the sound of the city fading behind them. But her breathing became even weaker. He felt it. Every second mattered now. "Stay with me," he said again, louder this time. She didn't respond immediately. Her head rested against him, her grip weaker now. "Hey," he said urgently. Her eyes opened slowly. "I'm here," she whispered. "Good," he said, trying to stay calm. "You're doing great." She gave a faint smile. "I found you," she said softly. "Yes," he replied quickly. "You did. So I can rest now," she added. "No," he said firmly. "Not yet." She looked at him, her expression peaceful in a way that scared him. "I am not alone anymore," she said. "That's true," he replied. "But you're staying with me, understand?" She didn't answer. Instead, her eyes began to close again. "Hey," he said sharply. "No, stay awake." His voice carried something stronger now, fear, real fear. "I didn't come this far just to lose you again," he said, almost to himself. That sentence felt like a promise, like a decision. The girl's breathing became shallow, and in that moment, something inside the man changed completely. He stopped running. He looked around quickly, then gently lowered her onto the ground, supporting her head carefully. "Listen to me," he said, his voice steady but intense. "You trusted me once." Her eyes moved slightly, trying to focus on him. "I'm not going to let anything happen to you," he continued. His hand moved toward his chest, pressing against something hidden beneath his clothes. A small device, something he had not used in years, something he promised himself he would never use again. But now, he had no choice. He pulled it out. A faint light glowed from it, similar to the glow in her eyes. The girl noticed it. "What is that?" she whispered. "It's something I kept from that day," he said. "Something that might help you." He activated it slowly, the light growing stronger, casting a soft glow around them. The air seemed to shift slightly. The girl's body reacted instantly, her breathing changing, her weak energy responding to the light. "It feels warm," she said softly. The man nodded. "I hoped it would," he replied. The device hummed quietly, connecting with something unseen, something beyond human understanding. The glow in her eyes became stronger again, matching the light. From the device, her breathing steadied, not fully recovered, but better. The man let out a breath he didn't realize he was holding. "Stay with me," he said again. Softer this time, she looked at him, clearer now. "You didn't leave," she said. "Not this time," he replied. Her small hand moved, reaching for his. He held it immediately. "I waited a long time," she said. "I know," he answered. "I was scared sometimes," she admitted. His grip tightened slightly. "You don't have to be scared anymore," he said. "Because you are here." She replied. "Yes," he said. "And I'm not going anywhere." The words felt final, like a promise he would never break. The girl smiled again, a little stronger this time. "Dad," she said softly. He nodded, his eyes softening. "Yes." The night around them felt different now, quieter, calmer, as if the world itself had accepted what had just happened. After years of searching, after pain, loss, and endless questions, the answer was finally here, not in a place, not in a memory, but in a person. She slowly sat up with his help, Still weak but no longer fading, he stayed close, supporting her. "What happens now?" she asked. The man looked at her, then at the city around them, then back at her. "Now," he said, "we stop running." She tilted her head slightly. "And then?" she asked. He gave a small, real smile. "Now we live," she nodded slowly, satisfied with that answer, as they stood together under the quiet night sky. No longer strangers, no longer lost, just a father and a daughter who had finally found each other. The journey that started with one question, "Are you my dad?" had finally reached its answer. And this time it was not a question anymore. It was home.